and is much faster when you have a decent graphics card. And the graphics card in my notebook really sucked. It was really not that good.
Oh yeah.
So it's.
See, I don't deal with hardly any graphic card stuff because I use. Oh, wait, I'm hearing it. Echo. Do you have headphones on, Daniel?
No, actually, my headphone. I can try if they reach over to my painting table, but I can also. Oh, let's see.
So I think I'm hearing myself on your computer, or maybe not. Maybe that's you, Josh. Hey, Josh.
I tried muting myself. It didn't seem to make a difference. What's up, guys?
Hey, Josh. Good evening. Oh, no.
Well, don't worry, Daniel. I don't hear the echo anymore, so no worries.
Did you say you have a VR workstation? What does that mean?
Yeah, you missed out last week.
That's true. I last year I got a more beefy computer, a thing that would be capable to run those VR headsets, and I got a Oculus Rift. I used it last live stream actually. So I did some abstract VR painting in last week's live stream.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a real interesting.
But now it has become my regular work computer, and it's still I've still got the VR stuff on it, but I have changed the position of the cameras, and now I have rearranged my room a little bit.
Gotcha.
But yeah. All right. Oh, we are live. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't see it because I realized
just need to get my pants on now.
Yeah. Get those clothes on. Yeah, I realized, wait, we've been sitting here talking. It's like 5 minutes. It was supposed to go live. Okay, so we're live, yeah.
All right. So let's get some stuff going here. I need a pencil. Where's my pencil?
Make posts about this.
All right.
Where do I get the link for the chat to send to people?
The link for the chat. Let's see. I'll paste it into our Q&A. Actually, I sent it to you by email too.
Is there a separate link for the chat?
No, you just have to turn it on the side. It's like just a chat internally for us.
Yeah, I see the internal chat.
Let's see if I can paste it here.
Yeah, I got it.
And if I click that link, what will happen? I will get out of the Hangout page, don't I?
It'll probably open a new link and take you to the stream, to watch the stream.
Mm-hmm.
That link specifically is to join the Hangout. The link to watch it is different. If you want me to give you that one, I can.
No, can I just turn on the chat of people that are watching?
Oh,
like with
the YouTube
Q&A thing?
Chat? The YouTube one? If you go to the event, like the YouTube event, and you see the chat there, you can actually pop the chat out so that it's separate. Like this. So it would look like this.
Oh,
it's a little window with the chat in it then.
Oh, all right.
Oh wait, so okay, I need the link to share with other people to come watch, not
to join. Okay, let's see. Let me find it.
It worked.
Close links. No, not me. I'm getting it, Josh.
Okay.
Wait a second. I guess I must have. Oh, let me see.
All right, I will also.
What up, everyone?
There it is. Oh, hey, Michael. Here, I'll put the link in the video chat as or in the whatever chat. The other chat. There's too many chats going on.
Okay, I see that I see the live stream on YouTube now, and you said you can.
Yeah. So when you.
Oh yeah, there's the chat in the new window. All right.
Exactly. So hey guys, everyone watching, if you guys want to tweet this link here, this is the people can see this stream if you want. You don't have to. We won't pressure anyone here. Let's see. I guess I better tweet this thing too.
All right. I now have. Oh no, it's gone! Oh, they closed the window. Oh no, it's not gone. There it is. All right. Because today, gentlemen, everyone, today I feel like actually paying attention to the chat.
Oh, nice. That would be awesome because then I don't have to feed the questions. Yes, I'm relieving myself of duties.
Yeah, but now I just have to.
Now you're responsible fully for it, Daniel. I'm joking.
All right.
You're like, why did I join this again? Wow, I need to sign on to Twitter every now and then. I got too many tweets I need to respond to. Brother, never mind. I won't turn off Twitter. So how many guys have deleted your Facebook accounts?
No way. Why? Because Facebook has our private data and uses it?
No, I just hear.
Oh man, that's news, really.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people are doing that. Apparently, I don't.
Yeah.
I wasn't shocked by it at all.
Might as well blow up Google while you're at it at that point. So
Yeah,
Why is this working?
I've tried
because
to
the
delete my
Google has
Facebook.
everything.
I've tried deleting my Facebook several times now, and it never deletes. So I'm just kind of gave up on it.
I'm trying to find as many ways to not have to care about social media as possible, but
Yeah, that's kind of the same boat as me.
to tell you, Twitter muted words has made life so much better.
Twitter what?
Muting words inside of Twitter so that you don't have to, like, any tweet that has a word or a phrase you can mute out. So, you know, when Twitter's having a rage fest about whatever it is they're upset about that week, is usually when I mute those words. I mute those words. I mute the hashtag. I mute all of it. I'm like, nope.
That's a
You
good.
guys y'all have your discussion. I'm here for the arts and the talk about movies. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. I didn't realize you could do that.
I mean,
I guess
awesome.
I don't hang out on Twitter too much.
It's good stuff. It makes the platform enjoyable again. Like it makes it and Instagram pretty enjoyable.
Nice.
From an art standpoint.
All right, I now have the chat window near, so I will keep an eye on it. And so everyone watching this stream, if you want to have a question answered by the stream participants, just write question in bold case, in uppercase, the whole word in uppercase, and then type your question. And this way we will not miss your question.
Yeah.
I kind of will take on the chat duty today. So Jason, you can relax a little bit. And
no, I'll have it open too. And I think our moderator Nick is going to be sending me questions by text if they pop up, and if we're not getting them.
All right.
But I'm glad you guys are watching it though too, because then it kind of can naturally go that direction. Questions can naturally be answered.
All right, we have our first question by Mr. Scott King. Which of you can draw the best taco?
That's a very Scott King question.
What is it?
I'm out. I have no idea. I have never painted a taco, actually.
What did he say?
Which of you can draw the best taco?
I've drawn an awful lot of tacos in my storyboarding days.
Well, then you qualify for the one who is the best taco drawer here in our group.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I can't argue with your taco abilities because I have not drawn taco.
I can't. Like, I don't know how many tacos I've drawn, so I think by default it goes to you.
Yeah, I think you just win.
That's like a storyboarding taco right there.
All right. Man, you're really fast at drawing tacos, Jason.
That's right.
Did he already do it?
You are really gifted, you know. I wish I had your talent.
I went into the gifted taco drawing class when I was in grade school.
Isn't that a great new Kickstarter project, drawing tacos?
That's the kind of Kickstarter project that would have made like $50,000 like 5 years ago.
Yeah. What was funny about that potato salad one was how many like copycats cropped up.
Mm-hmm.
And just like it was just like everyone's like, oh, this is the thing. We're gonna go make all this money from our potato salad Kickstarters, and just no one backed any of them. Thank God for that.
Right.
I remember just seeing that potato salad Kickstarter and thinking, how is he going to ship all this potato salad? Like, how in the world is he going to pull this off without it all spoiling and being gross by the time it got there? I still don't even know how he pulled it off. I should probably go look it up and see if we can.
Didn't he just make his own potato salad?
Well, he did, but then
I know
he had
like a big party. Like, if you could make it, you could come, kind of thing.
Come goes party. I see.
Yeah, Yeah.
It was weird.
It was strange.
I see another question. Just wanted to ask I should read this before I try to read it live. Maybe Daniel can read better.
So more questions are popping in. Yaroslav Pista is asking, hi guys, just want to ask how you get used to Cintiq if you never used one.
Use it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good start.
Force through that.
It's honestly not like the Wacom tablet is much more difficult to adjust to initially than the Cintiq. The Cintiq's pretty straightforward, I feel like.
The bigger adjustment is getting used to the tools that you're using. So like if you're using Clip Studio, getting familiar with the way that the pen tool interacts with the Cintiq, and is there a way to adjust it so that it feels more natural? Also, I think wearing some sort of glove helps your hand go across the screen better so you can pull the stroke easier. But for the most part, I mean, it's just like drawing on paper, really. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's the fastest I ever jumped into working digitally and just running full speed. So.
Yeah, I mean, Wacom is kind of marketing the Cintiq as the natural step from paper to digital, right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But I have to say, I was in my earlier years. I was totally into the Cintiq stuff. Once on a trade fair, I actually stalked the Wacom booth no, I didn't stalk it. I became a booth barnacle, you know. I just stood at the Cintiq all day long and painted on it. And at some point they just gave in and said, okay, you obviously like to paint on the Cintiq. Okay, we will hire you for our next trade events where you can paint on those, and we get you one of those to practice at home and stuff like that. So that was really fortunate, and for some years I was super strongly into Cintiq, but I kind of grew out of it because on a drawing on a tablet, on a normal tablet, is actually much more relaxing than painting on a Cintiq, because the Cintiq forces you to massive arm and hand movement, because you are, your painting surface is the area you have to move along, and on the tablet you can move your arm on a much smaller area, or over a much smaller area than your actual work area is on your screen. And I actually, just to finish that thought, I actually like not having my hand in front of my work when I'm working. Yeah. So I would say just use a normal tablet. Don't invest a lot of money into a Cintiq because you think that it is a superior way to work. It might be a workflow that feels more natural for you. You should maybe try to test one of those things on the numerous events that Wacom has everywhere where you can test that stuff. And if you feel that it feels better for you, invest into it. But don't assume that like tablet is the beginner stage and Cintiq is the end game. I see them completely on eye level from a workflow point of view. That's my 2 cents.
So I will add on to it only to say that I agree with you, Daniel, like 100% when it comes to painting, especially because you can make gigantic sweeping movements. But trying to draw a comic with an inking tool on the tablet makes me want to throw my tablet through the screen. If I'm like a comic like you're doing, Daniel, you might find it to be simpler since you're primarily painting it. But if you're doing like line work, it is. I couldn't do it. Like it hurt my arm so much, but from a painting perspective, I do agree with you. Like when I was doing a lot of digital painting, I found the tablet to be just as useful, if not better. But it's kind of to each their own, right? It's if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. If the tablet works for you, it works for you. But I did see, Daniel, that you were doing more on the tablet.
That's actually what I'd like to advocate. The thought that there's not a hierarchy of tools, only because the Cintiq costs like 5 times the money you pay for a normal tablet doesn't mean that it is a superior tool. It has its specific characteristics as a tool, and you might enjoy it more than painting on a regular tablet, but you don't need a Cintiq to make good work. That is absolutely not a prerequisite.
Right. I will add that right now my Cintiq makes me want to throw it through a window, but there's something going on right now with the touch sensitivity on my Cintiq 22, like the touch screen, where like if I try to zoom in with 2 fingers, it like zooms into the highest pixel. Like I don't know what.
Sorry, Michael, you're all robotic right now.
Oh, any better?
Now it sounds better. Right when you said it starts messing up, that's when you started glitching.
Hey, Doug Bear!
I'm in. Can you hear me?
Hey, Doug?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I was just commenting that for whatever reason, the touch screen on my Cintiq is acting up really bad lately. I have no idea why. And I might just have to call them and ask them what's going on with it for some troubleshooting, because the internet's been completely useless on helping me.
Hey guys.
What up, Steven?
Hi, Steven.
Hey, Steve.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, there's a big delay. My internet must be catching up.
Oh yeah.
Might
So
be really quiet today.
Of this chat, here was another question by Richard Smith. Have any of you had? Oh, now it's just popped out of the screen. Give me a second. And had any of you have any of you have had artistic depression, and if so, how did you overcome it?
This is Doug. I have it every day. It's because I keep wondering what's worth doing, and this is probably because I'm older and more washed up than any of you. Is you go like, well, what do I do now? What is worth my time? And that especially got present when I had kids. Is like, what's worth taking time away from my kids to do? So it can't just be, oh, I'll just fart on a canvas, which is what I used to do. Is just kind of, I got to scribble a lot and play around with cartoony stuff. Now everything seems to have a purpose. Like I'm like, I have to justify this time with, like, it has to be a book or a game or a project or something like that. Otherwise I feel too guilty. And that, as an artist, that's depressing, because we're all like infants. Like, I just want to express myself, is why I got into the arts as a kid. So to deal with that, I make sure that all of my projects I work on have a potential to be good work, to be something worth working on. Because nothing depresses me more than to work on a project where I go, this is not worth the time, the percentage of my life I'm putting in. It's not worth it. That's where my depression comes from. So being more practical helps me really be more inspired and work harder at something and feel better about it. That's me.
That's a good point.
I definitely struggle with
that the opposite is also true. I know that a lot of my downtimes, my creative downtimes, comes when I overthink stuff and just want to make something very intelligent, and then when I look at other people's stuff and see, oh, all the intelligent stuff has already been done, so what am I doing now? And it gets me into a spiral where I don't really can get up and do something. And I think it has a lot to do with what you said, Doug. As children, we actually didn't care. We just did what was fun. And I know that my practicing years as a teenager, when I was just doing nothing else than drawing all day long, I never asked the question why I'm doing that, or if the drawing that I'm doing is important or whatever. I just did it for the sensation of having the pencil on paper, creating something that is recognizable by others,
Yeah, there's a joy to that youthful art, a wild, unfettered, joyous spirit to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still drawing for fun. If I'm not having fun making my comics, I'm making the wrong comic.
Yeah.
But like being between projects right now, I have a I'm working on the next one, but I don't have anything demanding my time. Where I have to go to bed and get something done, or I don't, and I'm like, oh, well, I'll just do a drawing of whatever, and I'm like, well, what's the point of that? Like, I don't want to just sit around and do drawings. I'd rather be working on something that's bigger. I definitely, I can say I felt depressed that I was working in a field that wasn't related to art for a long time, and really felt like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And so I didn't struggle with depression as it related to art itself, but as much as like, why am I not doing what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing? And it really just over time I realized, like, well, I am. I'm making comics. Like, no one's stopping me. It's just I make my income elsewhere at the moment, but nothing's stopping me from making comics. And the more I sort of embraced that I'm just going to make comics anyway, whether people pay me or not, the less that bothered me. Now I'm just happy to have food coming in and my wife not wondering where our paycheck's coming from, and I just keep making whatever books I want. So it works out.
I'm working on a comic right now that is very depressing. So here's my notes. I got about 24 pages of notes. It takes place in World War II, and I hate all war, all military, but it has to take place during World War II because of the plot. So I'm doing all this research on World War II, and it's just super depressing. Like I'm in the middle of watching The Hiding Place right now, and I watched Band of Brothers and Biloxi Blues and a bunch of.
You watched The Pacific.
Yeah, exactly right. It's just it's so depressing, but I have to put this time in to be able to properly grab the culture of war. Like, I don't like drawing tanks, and there's tanks in this story. I can't just, because I don't like to, or I'm uncomfortable with it, I can't just take all the tanks out or take all the, the military gear, all the guns out. I hate drawing guns. Like, I like shooting guns. I don't like drawing them. and I'm terrible at it. So it almost seems kind of suicidal to draw something that I know isn't something I want, something I enjoy drawing, if that makes sense. That's depressing.
I think it's a good example of kind of transitioning from drawing for drawing's sake and drawing for like a higher goal, if that's not too much to say, I remember that when I painted my big painting, The Journey Begins, The Boy in the Attic, I felt so accomplished with this painting, and I thought that I really did reach a point with it that from that point it didn't really make sense for me to paint another big painting. I don't know. I just ran out of motivation to make paintings.
Daniel, how big was that painting?
Well, it was metaphorically big. It was a digital painting, but it was very big for me because it got a lot of recognition. It won a CG challenge in 2006, exposing it to many people, and for me it was just a huge accomplishment to have painted a painting that has a story and that people got engaged to and got interested in. And from that point on, I thought that it wouldn't be easy for me to make another painting that works just the same way. And this kind of transitioned me to storytelling. And from that point on, my focus shifted from the paintings itself more to the story that I want to tell with my work.
Sure.
And I think that's also true when you come to a certain level in your drawing. You just feel that you need to go on. You need to take the next step. I don't know if it's fair to say that there is some kind of hierarchy to that storytelling is above drawing and drawing is above scribbling and stuff like that. I think that's not completely fair, because there are people who are just painting single paintings and do the storytelling that you can do in one painting, I would say. And that's totally enough, and it can be brought to incredible levels. But for me personally, going the step to storytelling with my artwork in comics form was necessary. I couldn't imagine a career, so to say, where I would just continue making paintings. It just didn't make sense for me.
I felt that way in college a lot, Daniel. Because I was going to move towards portrait painting out of college, and I was just like, I don't want to just do portraits of people forever. Like, I know some people are really good at it and really enjoy it, but I was like, I want to tell a story. Like, it's actually a quote in, Doug, one of your videos where you're like, yeah, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a 1,000-page novel says a lot more than that one picture.
That's right.
And and that appeals way more to me.
Yeah, story is just a really different medium than just art, I should say. Or I should say every art form tells a different story, right? A painting tells one kind of story, but when you get into plot and narrative and sequential art, you're jumping into a whole other discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was explaining to my kids how I started as a visual artist, and when I fell in love with story, it's a lot. It's just different. It's different, and now when I draw, and I'll even make a really cool character or a cool drawing or a cool bunch of shapes or appealing lines and things like that, and I just keep wondering, what's the story? Because I demand now a story before I feel like it's put in its context. Like drawings out of context now don't, I visually like them and everything, but I'm always impressed with good storytelling, even more.
Yeah. Same.
I'm like, how did he get me to feel that? When I'm watching these movies and stuff, I go, how did they get me to feel that? That works. That worked.
There's a follow-up question to that one too, unless anyone has anything else to add to it.
Yeah, read it.
It says, follow up to the current conversation. Is it better to just jump into an ambitious project? So I'm guessing, it's kind of that old question where should I start small or should I do something big?
For me, I always just did the ambitious project anyways.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
Whatever gets your hand moving.
I guess it depends on what you want to do. If you're excited about the ambitious project, then start it and maybe you fail. But if you're motivated to do that, then do it. You'll learn. And if you tell a big story and it's bad, well, you learned how to tell a story better next time. I don't know. I mean, there is definitely merit in working on short stories and stuff, but I think you should just work on.
It's kind of advice for the two different kinds of people, because I get the same. I give opposing advice to different students. Like, do something big or do something small. Do something small if you're so afraid that you won't move your hand. So do something small because then you'll feel like you can do it. But a lot of times, I never was interested in short film. I don't want to make a short film. I want to make an epic or nothing.
Right.
So if you need the epic to turn you on to get moving, then throw in on the epic. So it's like there's different reasons why people are inspired to do things. And because I'm not inspired to make something small. I don't like small things. I like breaking down giant projects into tiny, tiny pieces so that today I do something small and it contributes to this honking epic.
Yep, 100%.
Goals.
Every time I've ever tried to do short story comics or something, because everyone's like, oh, you should do short story comics. And I'm like, I don't care. I cannot care. I just do not. But I would rather make a 150-page graphic novel that I know is not great, but I learned about how to tell that bigger story, and I learned about how to manage telling that bigger story, because it is sort of it is a time management thing. How am I going to get this whole thing done? How much am I going to get done on a daily basis? Like Doug said, breaking it down into manageable projects. But I don't know if Jason or Daniel or Steven have anything on that, but man, I just could care less about short story comics. I want to, because I know they're fun and they're something I could quickly bang out, but when it comes to sitting down at my desk and doing it, I could care less.
I don't really I've never liked to do short stories myself, because the thing for me is if something doesn't impact me, a medium doesn't impact me, then I don't have any interest in it. And short stories have very rarely made a difference in my life, I don't think, as far as a comic short story. There's short, there's parables and stuff that have impacted me, but and so it just never really became this thing I wanted to do. But what's interesting is this last week I've been thumbnailing out a short story, and it's an idea I wrote 10 years ago, but I just never wanted to do it because it was a short story. But I kind of tricked myself into doing it because I'm teaching this class. And so I'm like, well, I'll do this story while I'm teaching this class, because I know if I actually force myself to finish it, I will appreciate this short story. But I could never figure out a way to force myself to do it. And I pretty much have it all thumbnailed and almost drawn out now, which is great. But it took a different kind of motivation for me,
Yeah.
Because if I would just rather do the epic. But then again, if I think back on my childhood, there was a lot of short, little, tiny stories that I did for years and years and years. Some of them were just stick figures, And so I guess those kind of qualify as those prerequisites to getting to the bigger and bigger thing.
there is something to be said about, if you've never done it, finishing something, like doing a 12-page story and having the satisfaction of finishing it.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first time I ever did that, and it felt like a big deal. But
and it's maybe I don't think about it this way because I started drawing comics when I was like in 3rd grade, so I was making a ton of short comics. They were just like my version of like X-Men or something, and they were like little 20-page comics. But then by the time I was out of college and stuff, I was like, man, I don't want to tell that kind of story anymore. You know, I want to tell something bigger.
Yeah, I think you kind of push the short stories as far as they can go. I think with what you can do anyway. At least that's how it feels like with me. And then I just didn't have any interest in it anymore.
Also, anytime I start a short story, it doesn't take long before I turn it into a very long story. Because if an idea intrigues me enough, it's usually going to build and build and build into something bigger, right? So, like, if I'm like, hey, what if a guy found, you know, a newspaper article that was like future dated, so he's seeing the future. I'm like, that's a cool hook. Why don't I see where that goes? And before I know it, I've written a 3-act story that's 200 pages long. You know, that's just the way my brain's going to run with it. What was that, Josh?
So that's called early edition, Michael. We've already seen that show.
Yeah. I've never seen that, actually, so I have not.
Hey, guys. Just letting you know, I just jumped in here.
Hey,
Kazu.
There. Welcome.
Hi, Kazu. Still on book tour, or are you at home?
I just got home a few days ago. Just been hanging out with the family, just paying bills and getting all the regular business stuff done, and preparing for tour in the fall. Made some final edits to the new book. It's done. I don't have to do anything else on the book anymore.
Yay!
Nice, congratulations.
Cool.
Thanks. And then, well, I got to start the next one.
The last one, right? It's the last one.
The last in the series, yeah.
Wow.
Not the last book, but yeah, not by a long shot. But yeah, the end of Amulet.
It's exciting.
Pressure's on.
Dang, it took you long enough, Kazu.
You better land this ship well, sir.
I got it. I'm pretty comfortable. Feel like I know what I'm doing.
Man, writing the final one in the series was so stressful to me. It was like putting all those strings together that I've been laying for, it was only 2 books, and you've been doing it for going on 9.
Yeah, this latest book was super stressful. Yeah, for a whole lot of reasons. But yeah, I mean, one of them being that I had to wrap up all the threads. So I feel like this one was the hardest or is going to be end up being the hardest because I've done everything to set up the last one.
Yeah, it's your in-between book.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like I had to go to the end and just sort of make a book in my mind and then go back and then make the book that precedes it. And that I've never done that before. That was tough.
Oh, what's happening? Daniel's falling.
Yeah, Germany's turning upside down, guys. It's real. No, I just realized that my camera is not close enough to the painting that I'm doing. I'm just trying to get a little bit closer so that people who are interested can at least get a glimpse of it. Although I now have to have the webcam in my mouth effectively, so maybe like this. Yeah. So and there was another question in the chat actually. It was about 3-point perspective. There was someone asking about how to position your characters so that you're not only creating talking heads comics, and using perspective on that. And I'm a huge perspective geek, and I just want to advocate learn perspective drawing. It is super logical. You can learn it from a book. You can just get one good book on perspective, and I can't directly recommend you one because I think every country has its own perspective books. I don't know of a huge international book on perspective, but I think any perspective is so logical. It's like math, you know. It shouldn't matter what book you get. Just learn the rules of perspective, practice them a little bit with cubes and stuff. What they tell you to do in those books, and then just practice it. Get it out of your system, learn it, and then you will do so much better with everything in drawing when you have learned the perspective rules.
As a 52-year-old who never learned perspective, I heartily agree. I absolutely am crippled because I'm so terrible at perspective. And I've tried learning it. I remember taking my first class on perspective in 6th grade. Just a teacher tried, and I have a terrible math head. I can never make it look right. It's infuriating. But I agree. I would counsel anyone else, like, you got to learn figure drawing, you got to learn perspective.
I think what helped teach me, I learned it in class and stuff initially, but what really helped a lot was using the rulers in Mega Studio and Clip Studio and using those perspective tools enough to where, once, now I can kind of see it now. I don't have to always have that ruler. It's given me a better understanding of how they work.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to post 2 books in the chat.
Real quick on the YouTube, I saw there's somebody on there named Lissy Dixon. I actually have your drawing here.
Ooh.
Look at this drawing that she did. She's watching the chat right now. It's really nice.
Very good.
Just in
awesome.
this, and I do have the drawing. This is awesome. She didn't make it to the event, so but she did leave this drawing. I appreciate it. So hi.
Where was that event at, Kazu? Where was the event?
This one was in Memphis.
Hey, that's right by me.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm in Franklin, Tennessee.
I should have thought about that.
It's still a couple hours away. I mean, it's enough to where it's a pain to get around.
Still, that's 2 hours. That's not bad.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I don't know where you are, Doug. Most of the time, you move to new places.
Yeah, I like
every
moving.
2 years.
I like moving. Well, I mean, I'm a Franklin guy now, so.
Okay.
It's so amusing from a German standpoint to hear you speak about a place being nearby because it's only 2 hours by car. I mean, in 2 hours you can drive through half Germany. That's really...
It's a big country.
Yeah, it's a big country.
Regarding the talking heads thing, I think another thing that's really great to study is cinematography. I think a lot of comics that my favorite type of comics have a cinematic feel, where I think the difference might be sometimes a cartoonist might not understand that the panel represents the perspective of the audience.
Yeah.
And so there's a sense some comics kind of come out feeling like you're watching a play, which isn't bad. There's a way to use that, but if you want to have a story that literally brings the audience into the story, understanding how to cut between scenes and have your establishing shot and then cut into the character's world, it literally brings the audience in their imagination, at least inside of the scene. And so I'm using that constantly.
This is the book you want. This is called Cinematic Motion. And the same author, Katz, wrote Shot by Shot, which is great on storyboarding and where to place the camera and all that for cinema. This is for film students, but it has everything. It's the entire language of film, basically, in 2 books.
Yep.
Awesome.
I have film directing shot by shot. I was going to recommend that as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I never took any figure drawing classes, or no, I took some figure drawing classes, but I never took any classes on perspective drawing. And I learned almost all of my perspective drawing from studying Bill Peet.
Oh yeah.
His cartoon perspective is really what is the foundation for the way I draw perspective. Sure. And I don't like to spend time ruling things out and measuring it. It takes too much time. And so I kind of eyeball everything.
Yeah, I learned a couple tricks from John Cristofalusi and hanging out with his animators. Is they had a rule in house where the perspective has to look right, but they would never use rulers. So they always would put those, the storyboard artists, the tick marks to show a grid. And so I still do that. It doesn't come out that right for me, but they always use those kind of cartoony construction grids just to get a basic structure down. I think I would think Bill Peet and a lot of animators, because I've seen all the DreamWorks animators, they all do the same. They drop those hashtag marks down. I mean, hash marks first, just to lay down a grid, just so they know where the floor is, where the ceiling is, where the wall is.
For more complicated scenes, I like to prototype something in 3D. If I have an interior scene, for example, and I know that it will be tricky to find the good shots in the scene. For example, in one chapter, I have a throne room with a lot of columns in it, and I knew that I wanted to have some shots from among the columns. And because I wanted to use columns to divide the people in the frame, and in order to make that work, I built the scene in a rough 3D model, and found my shots in this 3D scene, which is really helpful. I'm normally use Blender for that, which is a free software. So if you aren't afraid of 3D graphics, give it a shot. It can help you a lot.
Yeah, all of my workshops at schools, it begins with a simple 3D drawing, perspective drawing exercise. Have you guys seen it? You guys seen my cube fields?
No.
No. I'm gonna try to see if I can get this to work here, so I can get. I haven't done this yet, so let me desktop. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, here we go.
Hey Jason, can you put Kazu's screen into the foreground?
Yes.
Is that okay? Is that how this works?
There we go. All right, you're center stage.
Am I right now?
The pigeons, though.
Okay.
Unless you're not ready, I can.
No, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, I mean, all I do.
Oh yeah, there it
is just do this exercise where I basically just draw cubes.
Yeah.
And I will just I'll just shift the angles of the cubes only slightly.
Yeah.
And just keep drawing cubes. And I do this when I feel the need to warm up. These are like shooting free throws at the basketball court.
Yeah.
It's actually harder on this Cintiq than it is on paper, but and I'll explain to the students that what I'm doing here is like if I took the time to actually rule out the perspective and measure everything, this would take forever. Like I wouldn't be able to finish this in a day. But if I can get my brain to act like a camera, where I can get an approximation of 3D drawings down, then I can start drawing pretty much anything. You know, kind of reminds me of working in something like ZBrush, where you're not actually making 3D, but you're making an approximation of 3D that you can bake into the model. You know, it's a bit like that. I feel like cartooning is a bit like that. Your final output's going to be flat anyway, so you don't have to actually make something that works in true 3D. And in some sense, because your eyeballs can't actually see things in a flat 3D perspective, technically, because you know you have your peripheral vision and everything else. I feel like cartoon 3D perspective is actually in some sense is actually more accurate to how you see things. You know, at least as it is represented on a flat plane or a flat surface. It's like it's more like a simulation of 3 dimensions, right?
Yeah, but it's when you make a room full of columns. If you start making a room full of columns, that gets nasty pretty quick.
So I actually discovered an interesting workaround with that in Clip Studio. I've learned that if you use the perspective tool to just draw the panel like normal, like if it's straight on looking into the shot, just draw it out that way. And then what I do is I do a selection of the panel that I'm on, and I use the mesh transform tool in there, and you can warp it so that it gets that fishbowling effect. You know, just like how I'm looking up at my ceiling right now, the perspective isn't straight across. It starts to eventually curve on either side. You can do that inside of Clip Studio, so you get that natural perspective look, but you can utilize the tools within the program to help you do it more accurately for all the objects and stuff in. So it's really helped make
because I know so few tools, but I do know Clip Studio Paint a little bit. If I draw a character, like this could be for a character in an action pose that needs to go back into the distance, or text like that's following a smoke stream going, you know, zow into the background. I do use that transform tool where I'll select it and help push my perspective I already did on it by pinching the back and, you know, making the front bigger to bring it into the foreground. And that always looks cool. Helps with my perspective. It's you know, it's faked and it's flat, but it works.
Yeah. I got into using that, especially in book 2, where I just had a lot of shots where I was like, man, this just looks so static. And then, which is something I struggle with in my drawing in general. But then once I used the mesh transform tool with the perspective rule, it really made scenes read a lot more authentic, interesting. Yeah, it's pretty cool. If you've never used it, it's worth trying out. Especially, Doug, with you doing all them tanks and stuff coming up.
Yeah. I'll use SketchUp. Any vehicle I usually bring up on SketchUp.
Same.
Bust out a 3D model and just fake it. And same thing with guns, things like that. If they're a common object, and I get real intimidated by the mechanics of it, I'll put in that wireframe, and I'll still cartoon over it, but at least get the perspective.
I do the same thing. It's helpful. It's really helpful.
But guys like Jake Parker, I mean, or even some of Kazu's ships, you know, Jake Parker, it looks like he's eyeballing all of his perspective on his ships, and they're freaking amazing. You know, they look like they occupy space. The fins and the jets on them and stuff are amazing.
I think
I've never seen him pull perspective lines.
Yeah, there is an entirely separate body of perspective rules in regards to cylinders and stuff that I didn't learn about till like a couple years ago. But like, if you have a cylinder that's coming towards you in space, one end of it is going to be like narrower than another end, and there's a different way to draw those two circles.
Yeah,
and it is just weird. And I think Jake he gets all that stuff because he's able to draw all those bolts going in at different directions, and like it's pretty nuts.
But also a ship that changes its shape from front to back and is in perspective.
So you're drawing a cylinder in perspective. As you
it's not just a cylinder. It's like it's a bunch of multi shapes all coming off each other with, fins and rockets and textures and things like that, all going back in perspective correctively. He sees it so clearly.
He is really good at that.
Hey, why is Jake not on here? Is he gonna be on here?
Kazu.
He was on once.
Are you Kibuishi?
Mm-hmm. Do you have a question? My kids just got home from school. I showed them Kazu's name on the screen. He goes, Kazu Kibuishi? Yeah. Oh. Do you have a question? And he ran off.
Sounds about right. Okay, thanks. Bye. The only other question we had in the chat was regarding a different model of the Cintiq. It's like a third-party version, which I'm not familiar with at all.
The Chinese ones, I know he's talking about. They're cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard good things about them.
Have you tried one?
Mm-mm.
I've tried drawing on one, and I mean, I couldn't tell the difference. The guy only set it up at work, and I just tried drawing a few lines, and it seemed fine with me.
Yeah, I know some people really like the new Surface ones, Surface screens.
Yeah, one of my friends at DreamWorks just raved about the Surface screens, or the Surface, whatever they're like iPad type things.
Don't they use that kind of like blunt pen though on the Surface? Are they still doing that? That sort of like squishy, round tipped pen.
You can get different tips for it, but yeah, they still use that. The ones that I saw, I keep hearing good things about it, but I've seen. I wasn't convinced. So, but when I'm using my old Cintiq from 2010, so this is a dinosaur. So once it dies, I'll definitely be getting something a little more mobile and light than another Cintiq.
You won't get a Cintiq again, you don't think?
If I can get one cheap and used, I'd do it because it's been very faithful to me on all my projects. But
yeah,
I wish there was something that wasn't so heavy. If I could grab one of those pads, I could sit in the living room and draw while my family watches, TV or whatever. I could be with them more.
Yeah.
Makes sense if it's cheap, and Cintiqs now, for what they cost is outrageous. It's just a matter of time before a real piece of tech is, I've been waiting for Surface or for an iPad Pro or something just to nuke them.
iPad's moving that way.
I really don't like drawing on a Cintiq. I'm not enjoying this.
Yeah.
The iPad Pro is moving in the right direction.
I have one, and that one's still tough to me. I don't know when they're going to be able to get the lag off of the drawing. Like I can sense the lag.
On the Cintiq?
Yeah, whenever I use a Cintiq, I don't feel it so much when I'm using a tablet because I'm kind of disconnected from it.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm right on the screen, that lag, it just feels like my pen is stuck in molasses or something.
And you feel like that's on because you have the 22 HD one now, right?
Right now I'm using a 22 HD right here, yeah.
Yeah, I don't notice it on mine anymore.
This is a new one.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't notice it on mine.
Yeah, you get used to the lag pretty quickly.
Staring at a screen. I don't like staring at a screen either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't like that I can see the pixels on the Cintiq. The one I have a 22 HD. It drives me nuts. I can see the pixels, but then I look at my other monitor and I can't see pixels. It's like a better screen than the Cintiq, which you're supposed to stare at really hard. But
that reminds me of me changing the font size in Photoshop because the type just gets too small for my old eyes.
Oh, I saw a question for RAM. Let me see, how much RAM does this computer have? I'm using I'm currently using a 2013 iMac with 16 gigabytes of memory. It's a 3.4 gigahertz Intel Core i5, so it's pretty old. It's not. I mean, we don't do anything spectacular on these machines, right? I mean, when we're drawing, so I don't use that many layers either. So this has been working just fine. And until Apple forces me to buy a new one, which they do, I'll stick with this.
Last year, I decided to replace my Cintiq, and I went one day. Just on a whim, I went to eBay and typed in Wacom and found a tablet where they had accidentally spelled the name wrong. It was like I forget, like 22. Wait, Michael, which one do you have?
The 22 HD.
HD. I think they had put DH instead or something like that, which meant that there was a lot smaller pool of people bidding on it, because when people type in to search for it, they couldn't find it. So I bid on that one and got, oh man, I got such a good price on it, even though it's like brand new. I was like super happy. I was like, ha ha ha.
Fooled you all.
I actually use the Cintiq as my second monitor. One of the small ones, you know, one of those 13 inches things. And as a second monitor, it's actually pretty awesome because it's sitting next to my tablet like a painter's palette, and I can just with the pen that I'm using on the normal Intuos tablet, I can just reach over to the Cintiq, click a layer or click something in the Photoshop palettes, go back to my normal tablet and just work, continue working. That's really great because you don't have to switch monitors that way with like a monitor switch button or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what's also very cool, that's a very geeky detail, but I always have the problem that on the tablet, I'm not using the pen buttons for right click. In Photoshop, I have Alt for color picking and space for canvas moving on the two buttons, which means that I cannot make a right click menu action in Photoshop. But since my second monitor is a Cintiq, it is the second device in the Wacom driver, and you can configure your shortcuts and your buttons for each device. So when I reach over to the small Cintiq, my pens have right click on one button, and when I come back to my normal tablet, they have the Alt and space mapping, which is super handy. Because I actually only need the right click in the menus, and they are all on the second monitor. I felt very happy when that worked out.
The biggest struggle I've had with the new Cintiq is I don't feel like its color is as true to the iMac as the older one was. So I end up fighting with it a lot. I don't know if Steven or you, Kazu, have had that same problem, but I actually I have not been able to get it to match anywhere near as closely as I was the other one. I fuss with it a lot.
Yeah, I don't. I like my my old tablets better than my new one. Like the Intuos 3 tablet has been still the best.
Intuos 3.
Yeah, I have like 3 or 4 of them sitting around.
The one with the transparent overlay, which starts creaking and squeaking after a few months of usage.
Talking about the gray one, right?
Yeah,
That's the one I still got.
Yeah, I still like that one the most. I think also
Really?
the surface is the smoothest, and it feels.
it has the most glass-like.
Yeah, it feels better to me. I have an Intuos, the newest one, the Pro, and I it's in the closet. It just never comes out of, and I just leave it there. And the one I take on the road with me is actually the basic Intuos, which I break all the time.
No.
So I just keep replacing it. It's only $100 or less.
This is such an annoying marketing decision by Wacom to like name the smaller the beginner tablets Intuos and the professional tablets Intuos Pro, because for so many years Intuos was the professional line, and the beginner line kind of changed names all the time. It was Graphire at some point, and it became Bamboo and whatever. And now it's just, I don't know, it's just way too confusing the way they market their stuff. Now the Bamboo thing is stylus for mobile devices, I think. It's, I don't know, I can't even. And the thing is, I was product evangelist for Wacom many years. So I was totally into that stuff and knew everything, but it's completely gone. I have no understanding of those product lines anymore. And if we're talking about the best graphics tablet, I would, well, from the pure haptics and product aesthetics, I think the Intuos 2, the like dark violet one that had no buttons and nothing, that was for me was the best product. I kind of like the Intuos Pro, the black ones. They have a sturdy feeling to them, and you can turn off all the express keys and scroll wheels and whatnot. And then it's kind of this simple device again that actually you don't need anything more than that.
I just wish Cintiq would make a screen that wasn't 80 pounds. I mean, I keep, every time they have one of those CTNX, they have a sample screen there, and all I do is I go up to the new model and I lift it up and I go, nope. I'm waiting for this thing to not like break, not feel like a brick wall. You think with technology they'd be able to get it down like a quarter of its weight.
Yeah, I think considering that the demand is so low, considering there's not that many people who use these things, I'm just glad that somebody's making them.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's kind of amazing that there is enough of a market that we get them on a regular basis and every year.
But they're manufacturing Apple versions that are like a Mac. It's a Mac screen, and they have different brands of screen. I
think that's they're trying to do that with the iPad, and I have like the new iPad Pro just to try it out. A lot of illustrators seem to like it. Still not there yet.
Yeah, but I bought an iPad Pro, a little pencil and everything. I went, no.
Yeah, it feels nice, but I don't know. You really can't beat paper.
Yeah.
I've tried to get away from it, and it's still the best. But anyway, so I've been doing these. I don't know. I was, instead of focusing on doing the cubes, I just started making some stuff with it. With after the cube exercise, I'll often do little spaceships and little things like that, make little squiggles and turn them into three-dimensional objects. And a lot of that just starts by drawing cubes in perspective, and slightly shifted, tilted perspective. And so with the kids, I just show them the cube field and have them try it, and then tell them just to keep going back at it. I started doing this when I was like 5 or 6. I read, just looking at Bill Pete's cartoons, his cartoons, and Mort Drucker's cartoons in Mad Magazine, and Cartoons Magazine. Sean Carey, George Frosley, the artists on that, they were so good at drawing cartoon perspective. I started picking that up, and then that's basically when my tool building started. So I spent years doing that. By the time I was in high school, I figured it out. It took about 10 years.
Kazu, I have a question with your design work. As we were talking about you and Jake, how much do you think it's like that you and him, the two of you have sort of developed a language library that you like internally have at this point for drawing things like vehicles and mechs and whatever. Because I feel like I would need to like pore over pages of like Gundam books or something if I was going to draw a mech. Whereas I think like you and Jake have sort of built this language and library in your head where you're just like, you can just create it and it looks good.
Well, if you just came over to our house and saw our actual libraries, you'd probably get a good idea of what we're doing and studying. Because I mean, I felt like I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, but I mean, I felt like I was keeping Stuart Ing in business for a while. Back in the day, I'd just be at every show, just ask Stuart, what's the new thing? I got to take a look. I've got every Miyazaki book you can probably find in every language, you know. And then I just I keep you know, lots of concept art around me. My stuff is just super rudimentary, very cartoony versions of really amazing concept art, you know? And so I don't know. I look at my stuff and I'm looking at these drawings I just did right now, and I mean, they look like kids' drawings. I mean, that's what
they work. That's what a cartoon is.
That is, yes, exactly.
There's
a power to that, you know. There's a power to it. So I can't help it. It just happens. But yeah, I would just collect a library of stuff, things that you know you really like. Here, let me see. Here, I'll switch it out to switch it back to.
I know Jake has a course that he created called "How to Draw Everything."
Here, I'll show you what I mean.
I'll look that up. How to draw everything.
You know, like I just like certain books I keep with me that I just love, like stuff like this. You know.
Oh yeah.
Paintings of like Veritech fighters and things like that. Macross, but you know, it's stuff like this. I mean, my stuff is just so childish compared to this stuff, you know. And Jake looks at this stuff too, and we just turned him into cartoons. Right. So I feel like I can't take too much credit for that type of thing. But my focus is really on the writing. That takes way more energy and more research. So I just do fan art of this type of stuff, and then I focus on writing.
Right.
And people seem to think it looks good enough, so that's good enough for me.
Right.
But you know what's cool is the designer of here. Let me take a look. Where's that book? Do I have it here? Actually don't see it. My mom actually went to college with the designer of the guy who designed Gundam and Macross and stuff like that, which is crazy. Like he's the same age as my mom. And I have that book, his book somewhere, and you should see the designs. They're so they're not really like technically impressive, but the design, all the stuff is in there, and they look really like cartoony. So seeing that, it's really disarming. It's like really, it makes you feel like, oh, okay, well, even as a cartoonist, you know, it doesn't have to look like what the final product's going to look like. It just, you know, it could just be, it could basically just be an idea.
There's my very best perspective. I just drew this alien bug ship. It's like I've never seen perspective in my life. Alien bug ship. That's
Doug, your work has like incredible perspective. Are you kidding?
Right there. That's about all I can do. I'm going to draw a bunch of German tanks now.
Pre-order now.
Well, for that, I mean, do you have this?
I don't. What is that?
Do you have Miyazaki's Daydream Notes?
I don't. Let me get that. Miyazaki Daydream. Ooh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Hayao Miyazaki's Daydream Notes. These are his watercolors of all sorts of vehicles. You know, I mean,
what I need.
Kazu, do you speak Japanese?
Jotto. Not much. I was 3 years old when I came to the States, and
Can you read those notes in those books?
I can only read the hiragana and katakana. My kanji is no good. I don't have much of a vocabulary. Again, I was 3 years old, so I know about as much as a 3-year-old. My family is from New York, so they're not. So when we came to the States, it was English only, pretty much.
Man,
but
that
I was born in Japan because that's where my mom went to school. She went to college in Japan, but she went to high school and grade school in New York.
Man, I have a bunch of books
Yeah,
about the backgrounds of the Ghibli films, you know.
All sorts of stuff for you, Doug.
Oh yeah, thanks. The good German ones.
Yeah, I'll need some of that.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of this story takes place in Germany and France and on American bases from World War II. It's just
So this book, you guys, is actually, really the inspiration for Flight right here. This and Mobius's work, right?
Yeah, I love Mobius. Yeah, I got a bunch of his stuff.
You guys have seen the Porco Rosso comic, right?
Yeah.
I've only seen the movie. I do not have.
No, I have not seen the comic. No,
Only 15 pages long or so.
Oh, is it in the art book? I have the art book of Porco
If you have the Daydream notes, you have it.
Okay.
It might be in the Porco Rosso art book.
I actually saw it one day because you tweeted about it, Kazu.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I think you
Yeah,
shared
and I saw that you could basically do the entire you can do the movie story in like 16 pages or so, and that's why in Explorer that was why I asked people to do 16 pages.
Awesome.
I didn't realize it was only 16 pages. That's amazing.
Porco Rosso?
Yeah.
Let me see how many pages. I think it's 15 pages. I think it's less than 16.
That's inspiring because I'm just working on probably a 19-page comic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yes, it's going to be a movie.
It could be. Yeah, I mean, what is it? I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it. Like one of the Explorer stories is being turned into a feature film at one of the major studios right now.
Wow, that's great.
At least being developed. I don't know if they're making it. It's not my thing. I don't know.
one of your stories or one of the other ones?
No, one of the other artists.
Gotcha.
Let me see here. Yeah, the Porco Rosso comic is awesome because I mean, this is stuff that Jake is looking at too, right? Like you got cross sections of
cool.
Like how the airplane works. So you get Porco right there and all the internal stuff. Notes in the middle of the story. I love that, it switches back and forth like that. And I think people should do that more in graphic novels. They shouldn't treat it like it's the movies because it's not. I went to film school and we're supposed to follow shot, reverse shot, right? You don't want to like disorient the viewer, but they're reading a comic, so they're completely stationary. They're in place that you could. I always switch the shot, reverse shot. I actually break that rule all the time.
Yeah, I break 180s all the time too. I'm like, I keep trying to just keep a thumbnail in my head. Don't break the 180. Don't break the 180. And I go, dang it, this is a comic. This is my book. I'm trying to ruin the whole page to keep from breaking the 180. I'm just going to break and I broke the 180. It's like,
yeah, you just break it. It's much more important that you guide them down the page.
Right.
Yeah, that the flow is better. Even if you break the 180 degree rule.
I was getting that trouble in dialogue because the character, there's a character on the left and a character on the right. And the character on the left is speaking first and the character on the right is responding. And then the character on the right starts talking first. And I don't like switching up, crossing the balloons or putting one balloon over the other. So then I got to either flip them right, left to left, right. And then it just looks weird because if you flip it back and forth across the entire conversation too many times, it's really disjointed.
Yeah.
I learned from Dershing Helmer, who does the meat. She does a lot more of crossing of tails on the balloons and leaves the characters more static and lets the balloons move around a little more. So I do that sometimes too.
Something that
I
helps
definitely
me
have moments where I fight with that, and then I'm just like, it looks better the way. Even if I'm breaking that rule, it looks better this way. So I'm gonna go that route.
Something I really like to employ when I'm trying to keep that that balance. And I know a character's talking a lot. I'll just cut to like some object in the environment, like a shot that like it helps develop the scene more, or establish the scene. And the Japanese speech bubble that has no tails on it is really useful.
Yeah. I got the Star Wars manga that Dark Horse translated. There's a lot of those with just no tails, and I'm so used to just putting it on everything that makes it more. It's just when the character's yelling, they'll do, and since the character's got their mouth wide open, it's obvious who's saying it. I kind of like that no tail thing.
Yeah, that's actually the one thing that I regret with my own work, that it is so much cinematically oriented that I lose a lot of the possibilities that graphic novels actually have. I mean, if you look at those Will Eisner pages, this book of him where basically every page shows an own approach to layouting a page. This is something that I'm completely neglecting in my work. And that would give some awesome possibilities to have that, but yeah.
Yeah, you can do it on webcomics. I like with Copper. I often use that space to experiment that way.
Yeah.
Experiment with like non-sequential panel storytelling, where you could just move wherever you want. It's like a salad of panels. Just,
yeah.
You can go whichever direction you want.
Did you say a salad of panels?
Yeah, like a salad of panels that you can.
That's a technical term.
Panel salad. That's
panels the crouton. Kazu, how much of? Because I'm looking at Scott Morse's work as he's putting his book together. His looks like every panel is a different drawing. Are you doing any of that in your book, where you're just doing a drawing on a panel and scanning it in and dropping it in, or are you trying to leave the page intact for composition reasons?
My process is really messy, and I want it to be like that until the very end. So I don't know what Scott does. I've never actually talked to him about comics work.
I only see his loose posts on Twitter. If you haven't seen them, they're great. But it always looks like an individual black and white panel he's working on that he picks up separate, and then somehow he's putting.
Yeah, I have a copy of Soulwind, not here, but back at home. I don't know.
I've seen the originals on Soulwind. They're pretty much laid down just like that with a Sumi brush a lot of times in a Series 7.
What I like about Scott's work is he's really good at putting motion on paper, and I feel like I can feel things moving all the time. There's this constant state of motion, like you're looking at like seaweed in the ocean, or trees flowing in the wind. I never really thought about the panel work though, the panel layouts and things like that. I always got the feeling that he was experimenting and working on his writing skills.
Yeah.
So
especially on Soulwind, I mean, that thing is it's all over the place. But he was a big fan of. We both were of John J. Muth. His is a big influence. He did a lot of Sumi work. And my first Comic-Con, I hung out with Scott and Jim Mahfood, and all Scott and I did was Sumi ink drawings the whole con. Like he would just do good, the bad, and the ugly drawings of just random cowboys and things. It was really rough. Like that, the Sumi ink was just breaking up all over the page. And I love the balls of the wall kind of drawing style of guys that just throw the ink right on the page without pencils.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I incorporate that in moments in the Amulet when I want that feeling. But I try not to allow the style ever to get in the way of the story. Well, not just the story, but really just more the emotion of the piece. If it gets in the way and like all of a sudden it looks like Kazu's performing on the page, I feel like I'm not doing my job. Yeah. But Amulet's got sequences like that, you know, where characters all of a sudden get a little bit noodly armed and they're just flying around, and you want that feeling of like wind and motion.
Well, I studied a lot of the explosions in the Appleseed graphic comics, and there were explosions done where you had to use a giant brush, and so I think I put some of those in Creature Tech or maybe Earth Boy. I would pull out the Sumi just to do an explosion and really set that brush down and scrub it and let it, break up, and it gave it a really different feel than my usual tight, explosions and stuff.
I don't think I've ever found a copy of Earth Boy that wasn't disintegrating.
Yeah, no, it was every print run. And we're going to re-release it. Not even next year, the year after, that we'll get to that one. But I'm looking to finally get the binding right. We've printed it probably 3 times, and I don't want to. I have to blame Image because they're the ones that dealt with the printer, and they were always bad. It always fell apart, including all of my issues. It was never printed right.
Yeah, you needed to get them sewn bound.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just bought another copy of Creature Tech because they do keep falling apart.
They do, yeah.
And the one I just got fell apart.
No.
Almost every one of my Image books, I don't know what the deal is. I don't get what's so hard about it, but
maybe is that your sales strategy?
Yeah. Forced obsolescence.
Make people forced obsolescence. I buy them myself too, because I've ran out of copies of Monster Zoo to run around Hollywood and stuff, and I have to buy them for like $50 on eBay. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Got to get those back out.
That's why I did the Daisy Cutter Kickstarter. It wasn't really to get it printed and out there. We just needed copies.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to get a copy. It was like $300.
Yeah, exactly. That's when you kickstart them. And how do you recommend that? Because I always feel like I'm spending so much time doing Kickstarters, not making stories. I'm like, I don't need the 10.
Long discussion.
Like, do you need the 10 grand that bad, to do a reprint?
Hey, Doc.
Well,
pro tip: don't paint 1,000 watercolor paintings for your
Yeah,
back.
right. Yeah, I learned that one.
Well, you got a master's degree, right?
What's that?
You went back to school and got a master's degree.
Yeah.
I think Kickstarter is like the same thing. It's like a master's degree in publishing.
It's also a master's degree in post office work. I can do the Dynamo printer software now better than I can Photoshop.
Yeah, we did that too.
I just finished ours, book 3's last week. It's like this rush of relief. Don't have to do anything else today with that.
Yeah, we got our book. We love it. It didn't. Adamsville the binding did not fall apart like my book.
My first book, I had an issue with that. Actually, we discovered that the binding wasn't holding up after I did a school visit, and the librarian wrote me and was like, "Hey, all these books are falling apart." And I've come to find out there was a whole issue with some of them. It doesn't seem to be on everything, but on some. Thankfully, the printer rectified that issue. This was years ago, though. But just nice to put this one behind me, and now I can just fully focus on the next book, which is nice.
Yeah, I started writing my next book right after I finished that Kickstarter. I sat down and I wrote the first chapter on Monday, and I'm trying to do a chapter a day for 2 weeks, just writing it out long form in my little tablet, and then I'll go to script in 2 weeks.
Thanks. I started the treatment for mine today as well. I've written the pitch section. That's what this agent I'm talking to wants to see, but then I was like, I should just go ahead and keep. I've written like a summary of the book, like a 2-page summary, but now I want to go through and just bullet point every. I like writing treatments, so I'm just writing out every scene, what happens. It's fun to be doing that part again.
Yeah, Amy's almost done with her book. She's over here.
Hooray!
She's like, no, don't put me on camera.
Hello.
Hey, gang, I gotta jump. I gotta go renew a domain name. I hate,
Renew a domain name.
it's like I'm being sent to prison. I'm going into a doghouse or going to prison. Sorry, guys, I gotta go. Do it.
Bye, Doug.
All right, God bless you guys. See you.
Bye,
Hey,
Doug.
Doug.
Hey, yo.
That's a new one. That cracks me up.
Yeah, so is
Yeah,
Jake?
something's going on auto renew.
I don't know. I think I missed the answer to that.
I sent him an invite, but I haven't heard back from him this week.
Okay.
So
We should bug him.
I just
Yay.
blast everybody. There's a couple people that keep saying they want to come on, and then there's always something that comes up. So I just figure eventually we'll be surprised by someone new.
Someday I predict we'll have too many people in the chat. Like everyone will come all at once.
Yeah.
It'll be like,
Because I keep inviting new people.
Looking at the questions, let's see. There's a question for me about Amulet being published in Japan. It is not currently being published in Japan, but we were contacted by Shueisha about it. They do Shonen Jump, and so I don't know where that discussion went. So maybe it might happen.
And another question, what do we think about Frank Frazetta's artwork and his compositions in his paintings? Well, I would say Frank Frazetta's artwork is one of my earliest influences for fantasy art, and I absolutely love it. And I know that from today's perspective, you kind of have a hard time justifying his depiction of women, but I don't know. I think Frank Frazetta was a very good artist and did some great work. And his compositions are, beyond words. He just nailed it with his art. The thing is, he did those iconic things all the time, and it's easier to make an iconic composition with one barbarian and a sparsely clad woman work, as opposed to like a mass scene with hundreds of people and stuff like that. But he really did great work on his stuff. I envy him for the atmosphere he put into his paintings. Those paintings are like from he managed to never show a concrete scene. It has always, his artworks always look like they are a snapshot out of a dream, where only the most important things are rendered and the background and everything is in this haze, in this diffuse feeling of a scene that you cannot quite grab. And there's an art to that. I noticed is another artist where I noticed that very strongly is Mike Mignola. I came to a point where I noticed in my own work that it is very hard to make an image atmospheric or even perspectively plausible when you have a ground floor in your scene. Painting or drawing a ground floor and placing objects or characters on it always kind of ruins the atmosphere in an illustration. And I mean, if you look at Mike Mignola's, if you look at the Hellboy series, at least the books that he painted, he rarely shows a ground floor. It's always even the interior scenes when he's in some Victorian house or whatever, the ground and the feet of the characters, they kind of blend in a black shape. And Frazetta did the same. He never cared about the surroundings of the characters. He just created a diffuse, dreamlike scenario where he put his characters in, and I think that's really very effective.
I'm not super familiar with his work, honestly. I know who he is, but haven't spent a ton of time in it.
Frazetta's pretty awesome.
As a kid, I was looking at Simon Beasley's work, so I guess I was influenced by Frazetta in that way. But
Yeah.
I think Beasley was drawing from him a lot.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, yeah.
Yep.
I switched computers, so I was making sure this is working.
Because I gotta get ready to run in a second, but I was going to tell you I caught the part of your discussion last week with school visits, and it's always just refreshing to hear your perspective on that. Just being an educator with the work. Actually,
yeah,
I've got a visit tomorrow. Actually, I'm excited.
it's great. You're getting in on the ground floor as far as like, you're getting to see where your books go. You know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of authors don't have that. They don't get to see who's actually reading their work if they're writing for kids, unless they have kids.
I've done it enough now to where like I don't even plan to go to comic conventions and such. I just enjoy school visits so much more.
Yeah.
Just a better experience overall.
Yeah. And also the way I see it, when I go to a comic convention, I'm talking to a lot of other people who are on their way to becoming comic artists. So, like I think everyone in that space is going through the same experiences. When I talk with people at schools, I'm talking to people who are going to do all sorts of other things in the world,
Right.
And it's and for me, when I'm not working, I generally am not hanging out with other artists. I'm usually hanging out with just people who, work at the local bike shop, at the local restaurants around here. They have day jobs like anybody else. And it gives me a wider perspective so that when I go to do my work, I know that I'll be able to speak with a bigger audience. And when you're at the schools, you're talking to kids who may be the next president,
Yeah.
who may who may end up being the head of a publishing company. I mean, they could be comic artists, they could be firefighters, they could be teachers, they could be all sorts of things. And so it's really nice to find a connection with regular people with the art.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. A lot of the people don't even want to be there. A lot of the kids, like, they're glad to be at a class.
Yeah.
But you're introducing your work to them sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good experience too.
Yeah, and I feel in part it's such a different experience in general because when you're at a school visit, like this is going to sound very self-centered, but it's like I'm the focus of the day. So it's like, okay, everyone pay attention to me. But when I sit at a convention too, I'm just like, man, this is just, it's like 4 or 5 days of just sitting around, and it's nice to see people and go out to dinner. But I end up feeling like the audience that goes there is just not who reads my books anyway, really. It's they're buying the pen up of Spider-Man across the table from me, and meeting all the kids, and you just see the acceptance of comics in schools now. We talked about this some before, about how just the content's so much different. But like a lady that I'm going out to in May, she's like, the previous librarian didn't like graphic novels, and I'm trying to change that because I'm just glad kids are reading anything, And so it's just a very different experience. I'm really excited. I just tried it on a whim years ago. I was like, yeah, let's just see how that goes. I'd seen you and Reina doing it and wanted to see what that was all about. And I was like, man, this is great. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's you're doing it right.
But on that line, I got to run. I got to go cook dinner. I'm gonna go see Ready Player One tonight, actually. So I'm excited to
nice.
check that out.
I'm gonna see that this weekend.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Hey, Mike.
Despite what Twitter says, I'm excited.
Does Twitter say? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Twitter.
Just block
artist.
just block that word.
Yeah, Twitter doesn't like anything.
It's gonna happen. I'm like, guys, everybody calm down on this. Like, you can't just not like it and then pay no attention to it. That is an option as well. But y'all have a good time. Have a good night. It's nice chatting.
Yeah.
Later.
Goodbye.
Bye, Michael.
Bye, y'all.
It'd be really interesting. This is just a random thought, but it'd be really interesting if you blocked the word "the" on Twitter. What would pop up?
A lot of short. What when you just like use "you" instead of "you." It'd be all like the teenagers who text that way. So you'd be really immersed in teenage culture.
Maybe it would take you deeper into the internet.
I remember when this Patreon fee debacle was unfolding. I used TweetDeck and had a row filtering for the word Patreon, which brought me in contact with everything in a day that is posted under this hashtag. And man, are there a lot of half-naked women using Patreon and using Twitter to attract people to their Patreon page. It really seems to be a thing.
Seems like that's the top patron, the top players are these people who game it that way.
I'm like slowly moving almost entirely over to Instagram.
Really?
Because it's just Twitter is just so annoying. It's not like because I joined Twitter for artists and to see cool art and to share my art with people and but now no one cares about art or anything on there and it's all just politics and I'll post a drawing on Twitter where I've got 2,000 followers and maybe one person.
Holy shit!
Amber alert.
Are you hearing that?
Wow. Who is that?
I don't know. Jesus.
That is an
Where
Amber
did
alert.
that come from?
Is there a there's a tornado, look out.
Or you can make it so you get the notification but not the sound.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, fine. Right.
Because it's kind of a panicky sound
Yeah. How do you turn it off?
in the settings. Somewhere I forgot, the notifications.
Anyways, I was saying the Instagram is just such a more for art and just nice people. I've found Instagram has been way better than Twitter.
I don't know. I see a lot of different audiences on each of the platforms. I think in my case, I treat it like a parent-teacher conference room. So that's kind of who shows up, and that's who I follow. I follow teachers and librarians, and sometimes authors, sometimes artists, and it's good to see what people are thinking, I guess. If they're worried about something, I think people are overly worried about things these days.
Yeah.
Or at least they've always been, but it's coming out now. They're venting all the time because they feel there's nowhere else to go. So they just kind of yell at this, at their phone. And it comes through on Twitter and it comes to you and everyone's retweeting something that makes them angry. They want you to be angry with them.
And then I unfollow all of them.
Yeah, you can turn off.
Oh yeah, true. I need to look into that. I've muted so many words on Twitter. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I think you have to curate the experience. If I followed only artists, I'd probably be off of there too.
Yeah.
I mean, not because I don't like the artists. I love them. but I don't want to hear their worries all the time because it starts getting to me.
Mhm.
You know, I just, you know, I'd rather listen to somebody who's calmly talking,
Right.
you know, whenever I go on there. And generally that's who I'm following. So I think I see Twitter differently than somebody else who might not be doing that. So you gotta curate what you see. I try to get a pretty balanced group of people in there.
Yeah, anymore. I don't really use Twitter for actually going and reading anything anyone says. If something happens locally, like the internet's down or something, or the power's out, I might go to Twitter and see if, oh, is this a power outage, or is this something else, or is it just my phone? I mean, or just my computer, you know. But for the most part, I just use it to kind of send everything too, and then I don't pay attention to it. But then I have to check it every now and then. That's kind of how Facebook's been, but Facebook's even more distant for me. I'll look at that like once every 3 months, maybe. And I really got into Instagram, but recently I haven't been as excited about Instagram.
Yeah, you need the right content for Instagram.
Yeah.
I just find that Instagram has a much bigger. My audience and fans and stuff respond to me way more on Instagram than anywhere else, because it seems like that's where most of them are. So.
Yeah.
And then Tumblr is just scary. I ran away from Tumblr.
I haven't been on Tumblr in a long time. I don't even know what's going on there, you know, anymore.
There are some shocking things on Tumblr.
Oops.
So there was this new social network, I have already forgot its name, which was on Facebook all day long. What was it?
Hello?
It was like, what is
Yeah,
it?
Vero?
Vero.
Yeah. Is it already dead?
I don't know. I haven't looked. I signed on and then posted a couple things and then I forgot about it.
Oh. Jason. Now that you're talking about it, there was at some point you tweeted that you were on this new social network. I don't know what it was called. It was something with what was it?
Oh, the Steam It?
Steam It, yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's like a blockchain type.
Yeah, and people get paid for their comments there.
It's all cryptocurrency, so it's really obscure to like figure it out from the ground.
I spent like half an hour on that platform and tried to understand it, and I just saw people dropping comments and pleading for being upvoted with their comments, and it was very surreal, actually.
It's really weird
platform.
I don't fully understand it, and I mean I have some friends that have jumped on it and like did a live stream, and then they got like $80 in this cryptocurrency, which when you pull it out, it's like $4 per dollar or something. I don't know. depending on when you pull it out, because it's all a stock market type exchange thing. And
That's so weird.
So I've seen people like make a lot of money all of a sudden, and then or crypto money, I guess. But it's this weird whole concept. I don't understand it, but I figured I need to dip my toes into it.
I never want to do anything on the blockchain because that technology is so powerful and so terrifying. I'm just like, no, thank you. I don't need a permanent record of what I've done forever to exist forever.
Yeah, because that's what it is. You write a post and it's permanently ingrained in this blockchain. You can delete it, but it'll still be back in it. But I mean, that's kind of how the internet too. Anything you post online is kind of going to be there forever. Kind of. But anyway, I just was curious, and so I started experimenting with it. And
did you have Do you have some experience with it now? Did you find the time to go deeper?
I took like a little course somebody put together on just all the ways to use it, and it just got really complicating because there's like different ways to use your what they call Steam currency.
Yeah.
And, it's just too hard to even break down. I don't even and so there's like the cryptocurrency on top of the blockchain, and on top of that you're dealing with the market's opinions, and you know how stock markets go up and down crazy. And then I just don't even know where to begin with it. So
it's like, imagine Bitcoin being a community.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah, because I don't know the history of this Steam, but there's all kinds of websites that use Steam. Like there's a YouTube version of Steam called DTube, and it's the same thing where you get paid by how many people upvote it or like it or watch it or recommend it or whatever it is. There's a live streaming platform that's all on the Steam blockchain, which is I forget what it's called. I was gonna try it, but then I was like, you know what? Never mind. YouTube's good enough for me right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I think of it yet. It's too early for me to make a decision. But I keep like posting stuff, like, so whenever I do a video, I'll post it as well on this blog platform.
You're hastening our robot overlords, Jason.
I talk about all you guys on it. I make sure your names are all embedded into the blockchain.
No, Jason. Don't stop that. Don't do that.
All right, I got my small Intuos working on my computer right now. That's what I've been doing quietly. So just getting the drivers in there.
And then the other day I heard that there are plans that Facebook is planning to set up something like Patreon, where people on Facebook can be paid for their creative work. That really got me excited a little bit, I have to say, because I see the biggest hurdle for the Patreon thing is still to get people signing up on Patreon, And I imagine that if like everyone already being signed up in Facebook anyway, it could be an interesting thing if they really do it in a
Except Facebook makes you pay just to get people to see what you post. So I feel like they'd have to restructure their system like much better for that to work.
I'm still really curious about doing a patron drive where I give people who sign up a comic and actually send it to them. Like have like a month period where I'm like, sign up and you'll get my new comic. I'll send it to you. I say it with that accent and everything, and then see what happens. And so this short story that I've been working on, not the one that I'm working on here, but this other short story I've been working on for the class, it's going to end up being about 20 pages. So it'll be like a regular floppy comic. And I just want to like really push that for a month and treat it like a Kickstarter campaign. And then, send out this little floppy comic to everybody who joins my Patreon. I don't know. I'm going to try it. I've been convinced that's the way to increase your patronage.
Jason,
Jason? I've got this 24 pages chapter that I did for Lionforge for the free comic book day.
Oh yeah.
Which is first only published in print. And for the giveaway at Free Comic Book Day, at some point I will be able to publish it. That might actually be a good piece of content to do exactly what you just described.
Yeah, Because see, I over here there's this print on demand company called Kablam, and I looked into the pricing. It would cost me about $1.20 per comic to print it. That would be my cost. And so, if I only have 200 people sign up, and most of them, I don't know if I'd have a minimum like $2 minimum or something. Maybe $3 minimum. But it's not like it's going to be a big risk because I don't have to do a huge print run with these print on demand things.
Mm-hmm.
I could, I still could do a big print run, like make 1,000 copies or something, and then just continue to sell them at conventions and stuff. But I don't know. I just want to push it to patron only. See what happens.
Jason, is your next? So this story you're working on is about pigeons. I'm looking. At
Oh,
your
this
screen.
is my children's book idea that I'm working on. It's called Pigeons Progress. It's kind of based on the Pilgrim's Progress, but with pigeons.
Nice.
So,
I see what you did there, Jason.
yes. So it's fun. It's all like sing song rhymey, kind of like Dr. Seuss stuff. And so that's fun. This pigeon's trying to follow this trail of seeds that his dad has this pigeon laid out for him. His dad's like a carrier pigeon, or delivers messages, and he laid out these seeds, and he's trying to learn how to fly, this baby pigeon. And so along this path he's trying to follow to the perfect perch to practice, he keeps getting interrupted by these other birds that are either distracting him or giving him horrible advice or something like that. So that's kind of the story. Eventually I want to do a Kickstarter for this one, maybe too.
Cool.
Seeing Clip Studio looks interesting. I haven't used it.
Yeah, I've been really liking it, and I just barely figured out this whole paging system that you can use.
Clip Studio is great for line drawing.
Yeah, and the brush. You're right. The brushes are just incredible, and I mean, I can't even hardly draw in Photoshop anymore because Clip Studio is so amazing.
Yeah, inking in Photoshop is just garbage now in comparison. Like trying to get like the smooth light, like if you're trying to replicate a brush, you can't really beat Clip Studio over Photoshop.
Yeah.
Does it assist you? Is that why?
You can turn that off and on, but like just the brush engine is just so much better. It's so much more smooth, and like the thin to thick sensitivity is so much stronger than with Photoshop. And then you can tweak how much it automatically will go in and out of thickness, how much it will straighten up your lines. You can draw in vector lines. When you flat in Clip Studio, like it will automatically, like if you're just using fill tool to like fill like closed lines, it will automatically fill like to the middle of the line, so that if there's any like dithering or pixelation, like it won't get ugly. It's just very intuitive for what we do.
Huh. So you would recommend it for flatting?
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, I would recommend it for flatting.
You save as PSDs?
You can save as PSD. Yep. The only trouble I wouldn't. Lettering can be tricky in Clip Studio. It's better now than it used to be, but like when you save as a PSD, it doesn't preserve your type files. So you'd want to letter if you're going to use like digital lettering and you want to preserve that. You'd probably want to do that in Photoshop.
Also, it'd be nice to like. I wonder if there's a way for your process, Kazu, because you start with pencils and scan them in. And I don't know. I used an earlier version of Clip. I used Manga Studio, but I don't know if there'd be a way to like scan your line work in and then convert that to a vector layer, so that you can really gain from the benefits of that fill tool.
With the new one, that doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be vector. It does that. regardless.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love Manga Studio for the perspective ruler
Rulers
where I
and
can
stuff.
I can set my horizon line down and I just pop like 2 or 3 vanishing points in there, and then it automatically snaps my lines to those vanishing points. And so I don't even pencil my backgrounds anymore. I have my thumbs and then I just go straight to backgrounds because it's almost an automatic process. Or it's pretty great.
And the new one's even better because, like, in the old one, if you make a perspective ruler, like, you have to draw on that ruler. And so, like, if for whatever reason you want to have another, like, a layer, something else on top of that that's on the same perspective, you'd have to duplicate the layer, erase everything. Where, like, this new one, like, you can just make a perspective ruler on its own layer and then use any layer to access that ruler without having to, like, draw on the ruler layer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think because I use so many lighting effects, all the photo effect stuff. You know, I don't think I would move from Photoshop. I've been able to get everything I need to do.
Yeah, for painting, I think Photoshop's still ahead of the game.
Actually, if you're using Lazy Nitsumi Pro, you can bring all that functionality also to Photoshop.
Using
that is, I don't know if you know of that software, Lazy Nitsumi. It's a small program that runs along. It's a standalone program that runs along Photoshop, but it kind of, jumps in. You can activate it, and then it will manipulate your paint strokes in Photoshop. And it can do the smoothing thing to various degrees. It can do perspective rulers. It also has circular and elliptical rulers and stuff like that. It has symmetry painting. It has parametric painting so that you can, for example, paint a sine curve or something like that. Or even L systems, you know, those branching things. It's really cool. Costs like a few dollars, like, I don't know, 20 or something like that. And then you get a lot of extra functionality for Photoshop. It also is it not only smoothes the position of the brushes, it also smoothes the pressure. You can actually design a complete custom pressure curve in Lazy Nitsumi that will just override what Photoshop wants to do, and that's you have pretty much all the control you want.
So it's kind of like an advanced plugin sort of thing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Actually, an application that's running alongside, and it's not only for Photoshop. It has a whole list of software that is compatible with it. Although I have never used it with anything else than Photoshop. It also has fisheye perspective rulers and
what? That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
What's
it's
it called
really
again?
cool. You have to look it up.
What's it called again?
It's called Lazy Nitsumi. So Nitsumi, Nezumi.
Got it.
All right, guys, I'm going to hide my broadcast because I'm going to have to start working on video editing again, but you guys can stay on here and talk as long as you want. Unless you guys are all ready to jump off.
My painting's already done, almost done.
I told myself this week I had to only do 2 hours max.
Oh, this is interesting. I'm looking at this Lazy Nitsumi program now, and I'm fascinated.
Oh yeah, there you can see it. He has great visuals on the website that show the features.
Oh man, they have a function where you can just program so it'll draw for you.
Yeah,
basically, yeah, like where it's drawing like these columns. Crazy. I mean, almost pretty much.
Really funny.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, there you can see it gets rid of these ugly tips of the brush strokes.
Yeah, that's what I hate with Photoshop. It does that little, like, just gross line at ends. Interesting. I'm gonna look into that. Let's look at the chat here.
All right, I call it done.
What is that, Daniel? What are you painting?
Yeah, I while re-editing my work for the Webtoons edition, I came across this one panel in one of my chapters where my protagonist Jonas just entered the fantasy world, and his ball of yarn is lying in the moss in front of him, and this visual kind of stuck with me this week, so I decided to make a nice close-up of the ball of yarn, and yeah, lying in the moss.
That's so cool, man. That's almost like well, at least on my little teeny screen, it looks like a Trump Lloyd type.
I like the abstract, the abstract aspects of well, I would really, I think I will do some abstract painting in gouache someday, because it just feels so nice to just have this very expressive brush tip that is, that's something that you will never get in digital media. And the mixing of the watercolor and stuff like that, it's just pure fun. But I'm afraid of it too. I couldn't use it for professional work because it's I don't have the feeling that I can control it, and I'm a control freak when it comes to that. So
Still don't know how to paint.
I don't either. I think I took one painting class in college, and that's the most traditional painting I've ever done in my life.
I have never taken a painting class. I actually noticed that you're talking a lot about taking classes.
Well, I went to school for graphic design, so I took a lot of fine art classes.
Ah.
Where'd you go to school?
UNF, University of North Florida.
Cool.
Yeah, I was rejected. I wanted to go to university, but my portfolio was rejected. I didn't realize that that you normally take a portfolio tutorial where they kind of tell you what they expect in their portfolios.
Were you trying to get into
they expected stuff like pencil drawings of drapery and figure drawing, and I just had like robots and 3D renderings in my portfolio. I think they didn't really understand it.
Was that like an art school, or are you just like?
It was a university.
Okay.
I wanted to go there after my.
Daniel, in Germany, is the university education subsidized, or how does it work there?
It back in my days, it was free for everyone. Nowadays, universities can take a fee, but it's nothing compared to I guess what you have in the United States, where all I hear is that people leave their studies with with a ton of debt, you know, and need years and years to repay that debt. The fees here in Germany, if there are any, are of a dimension what you can recoup every month when you have a little job besides your studies. So if you're working in a restaurant besides your university study, you can basically pay your fees.
Huh.
But then
I couldn't afford art school. That's why I didn't go.
Yeah, I just went to a public college and I had some scholarships, but yeah, there was no way. Like, there's some art schools in my area, like SCAD and stuff, but the idea of like paying $250,000 for an education in comics is about the dumbest thing I can imagine. And I cringe every time I see somebody like doing it or going to an art school for like this kind of career, and I'm just like, oh, don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There's so much. There's so much with art that there's so much knowledge just freely available with the internet now with art that it's much better to be not in debt. You can have a comics career much easier if you don't have debt.
Well, I try to emphasize trying to learn something that you want to put into your work, rather than so much than the output part of it. That's something that you'll do anyway.
Yeah.
You can't help it if you're an artist.
Oh, I'm happy that I have this painting off my chest. It has to be done till Monday. I only have to do one painting a month for my patron, but I always wait for the last few days. I don't know why. But it's finally done. And now it's cleaning brushes again. I hate that. That's something that I really don't miss it from traditional media. This all the cleaning stuff. And all the fear for the expensive brushes that where you spend all your pocket money on.
Expensive brushes, expensive paint, expensive canvas, expensive everything.
Yeah. I mean, not that the digital stuff is for free, but well, you don't have to pay more when you paint more. Actually, I'm waiting for that. Actually, I'm waiting for Adobe to stop bullying me with their Adobe stock bullshit and start telling me that that they will charge me how many times I open the color picker and how many swatches I want to buy.
They'll charge you by the length of your lines.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
That's pretty serious.
That'd be so stressful. Ah! Well, guys, I got 2 weeks left before I launch my pre-order book promotion for Spaceboy Volume 1.
Kickstarter.
Wow.
And I'm really excited about it because I got a lot of stuff planned, but it's hard to promote the book while I'm also making more book stuff. But I'm really thankful I've got an assistant helping me recently. But yeah, this is my second foray into printed books or into the publishing world, and I really hope it goes well.
There are, I guess we don't have links in the description. We should probably make sure we do that next time. But people are asking what we do or what like links for our work and what we make. So I just thought we'd go over that real quick. But anyways, I make a comic called Newman on webtoons.com, and it updates on Fridays.
And my name's Steven, and I make a comic called Space Boy, which is on, you can read it on Webtoons as well on Thursdays. The camera keeps falling down. Daniel, what do you do?
Oh, are we talking links? All right, yeah. You can read my work. You can read my work at wormworldsaga.com. That is worm like Earthworm Jim. And I really needed years to not say Wormworld Saga.
And I make comics. It's published traditionally. Do a series called Amulet. You just find that at bookstores. And that's it now.
Ah, come on. Go to boldcity.com and read the awesome Copper comics.
Oh, yeah, you could read my web comics if you want. It's free online.
Don't be shy about it. I really love the Copper series. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those are just kind of for me, you know, or for people like me. Whether or not people reading them, it's not a big deal for me on that one.
Those were a big influence on me early on.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm glad that people are enjoying it. We do have a few new ones up there, so if people haven't seen them in a while. There are new ones. I surprise them.
I hate that these colors that I imported from Japan for a shitload of money are starting to mold.
Oh, no.
That's really a bummer. But what can you do? Actually, I tried a lot of stuff. I tried to put alcohol into the paints and all kinds of alcohol variations, you know, up to a point where I actually melted the plastic jars because they kind of got, I don't know what's the name is. They just melted in the alcohol solution. It's this, I don't know, it must be some Japanese hero mold that is just immune to toxic stuff. I have no idea what it is, but it will apparently destroy the world when it escapes the jars here.
Amy was saying put them in the fridge.
The fridge? Yeah, I might. I haven't tried the fridge yet. That's true.
Becky puts her ink in the fridge.
Becky Clinton, Amy's friend, puts her ink in the fridge.
But into the freezer or the fridge?
Fridge.
The fridge. All right.
Well,
then I think it's the question: food for the children or paints in the fridge? I have to discuss this with my wife.
Yeah, just don't eat it yet.
Dad, chocolate milk tastes weird.
But it has a cool color, Dad.
Adds a new meaning to the purple stuff, I guess.
Oh man. All right, guys, I'll jump ship. I'll go to bed.
All right, Daniel, it's so cool watching you make that painting.
Did you enjoy it? Oh, I'm actually I will watch the recording of the stream to see if anyone could actually see anything. But yeah, one lucky patron will get that painting. So if you become a patron until Monday, next Monday, you have a chance to win this painting in my original Art Monday art lottery.
Well done.
Yeah, right. Okay, guys, I really enjoyed today's live stream. See you next week. I'm going to bed now.
Good night.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Daniel. Well, that was great. It was so crazy watching Daniel paint in 3D on his 3D goggles last week.
That was hilarious.
He was talking about that.
That would take me forever.
Yeah, like I can't imagine. Like I bought a VR thing, but I have it for like gaming and stuff. But I would have never thought to buy one just to like draw.
He seems like he's the type of guy who actually goes out and buys all the new technologies and then sees what applications it has for art and like does all that hard work of testing it and everything. I'm already like, slow down. Like, I don't want any more technology. Like, I figured out the stuff that I'm using for my stuff, so I'm good.
Yeah, the cartoonists are kind of the Luddites of the art world.
Yeah.
They don't really want to do anything new. That's kind of how I was. Luckily, I had concept artists like Kang Lee around me. He's like, no, do this, dude. Do this. Try this.
Anytime you add something new, that just means adding more time to your process.
Do you guys remember in the early when people were really starting to get on put comics on the web, and it felt like anything was possible, and there's like this whole infinite canvas type, all these ideas of and like I forget
part of that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Some old dudes were trying all sorts of stuff on the web.
Right.
I mean, I was starting when there wasn't a Wacom tablet. That wasn't even available yet.
Yeah.
That was Craig Mullins was still doing paintings with his mouse.
Oh,
Mac Paint. Early concept art for like Bungie.
I remember seeing like Ben Caldwell doing like painting tree backgrounds and stuff with his mouse, and I'm just like, you crazy person. I can't imagine drawing anything with a mouse.
You know what it is? It's not that I think maybe we've just gotten older, because like I get kids who send me like, hey, I drew this on my phone, and it's like, what? Really? Like maybe it's not the comic artists are Luddites. Maybe it's just we're getting older.
Yeah, I mean, we are old.
You're so old, especially Josh.
Yep.
How old are you, Josh?
32.
I'm just kidding, Josh. I just turned.
Wait, what? 30?
32. Yeah, no, I'm not that old.
That's not old.
That's what Steven said.
I just turned 31 2 weeks ago.
Oh man, I'm old. I'm about to turn 40 real soon.
You had a panic yet about the stereotypical midlife crisis? Has that knocked on your door yet?
A while ago, I think.
Like, well, I've got like 3 Corvettes, so I don't know.
Well, I bought bicycles.
There you go.
Well, really, really expensive bikes. I'm a cartoonist, so I can't do the cars.
Fair enough. Here comes Kazu in the new Schwinn.
Schwinns are terrible now. Well, if it gets you around, it's fine. Whatever.
Bought a mountain bike once and then took it back because I live in Florida and didn't have any mountains.
Get a road bike.
Yeah, we had I've got like a beach cruiser, but you have to ride a road bike on the road, and I don't want to die.
Yeah,
so,
it is. I don't really recommend it.
Yeah,
it's so dangerous.
Yeah, it's scary here.
But I hope they change. That changes. I think there should be more bike paths. Something that I really thought about when I was making the next Amulet. I incorporated bikes because I'd like to get people riding bikes more.
We don't even have like most cities don't even understand how to make a safe crosswalk. Like, never mind, like having places for bikes. Like, if you're in New York and like the crosswalk light says go, then you're the only one who's allowed to go. But like here in Florida, if the cross light says go, there's still probably cars turning into you. Just like they're supposed to yield, but they might not. And it's terrible. We are not in favor of bikes and pedestrians.
Mhm.
Man, I love living in Japan because like bikes would, they have so much. They have like bike roadways where it's just like you have a community of houses and there's just like a highway like just for bikes between the houses, and it's so cool. It takes you straight to a train station. You lock up your bike and go anywhere you want. And no cars. It's awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for your health too. Gets you out. Once the cities get more crowded, I think there'll be more biking. It's really more a matter of there's just a lot of distance to cover these days. Still, I think America is still pretty undeveloped.
That's true.
There's so much land. I think that'll change soon.
Saw a picture on Twitter, I think, of like a bike graveyard in China somewhere, and it was crazy. There were so many bikes. I wonder if I can find that.
I love your typewriter.
Yeah, what was that? Yeah, it sounds like something was deep frying just now.
Yeah, look at. I don't know if you can see my screen.
No, I just see a vampire dude.
Okay, well, hang on. It should switch over.
What?
Is it showing yet?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, this like mosaic. It's just.
Oh, is that what those are bikes?
Yeah, those are all bikes. There's like other images.
Pretty.
The color code.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Why are they in the graveyard, though? I mean, bikes keep riding.
Well, I guess, like, I mean, they go through bikes like we go through cars, and I guess it's probably, I don't know, it might be a recycling center or something like that. Just if people go through so many bikes and, like, you have to throw it away, that's a lot of, like, I don't know, I have to research it, but it's pretty crazy.
When I was in, this is my bike story. When I was in Japan, I had this really cool bike. They have these like lights on their bikes where you can power the light by driving, by connecting a little gear to it, and you can actually drive at night with your light on. And I had this bike that like was so annoying because it would like squeak super loud whenever you press the brakes. And I think because, again, like Kazu was saying, like in America, our cities are so spread out. Like if you want to ride a bike, you got to really huff it to get anywhere. And so when I first started riding a bike in Japan, like that was my instinct. Like I would just pump as hard as I could to get there. And then I'd be super sweaty when I got there because it's so humid. And one day the bike broke and I could only drive in with one gear. So I had to drive super slow because no matter how hard I pedaled, it was still in the lowest gear. It was just stuck there. But I realized I would look around and I realized that I was actually driving around the speed where all the other Japanese people were driving, because I think there it's not like they have to get, it's more like a faster way to walk than like a speedy way to get around town, and they're just a leisurely pace of biking. And so I started to kind of really appreciate it, and I like affectionately named the bike Borosuke, which in Japanese is kind of like Boro is kind of like Rusty, or like Rusty the bike or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I really just, I don't know, I really kind of liked him. And then one day I was driving and the chain snapped entirely, and the bike broke. Like it like hit the tire somehow, and I had to like I had to roll it home, and that gear that connected to the light, like that usual squeak that it would, the wheel would go around and connect to the gear, but then since it was bent, it would touch it and then release, touch and then release. So it would make this noise that was just like, and like the light would come on and off, and I was pushing this bike home knowing that like it was
your haunted
die.
bike.
Yeah, it was just like, I was like, oh, Borosuke. And I knew I would just have to take it home and like throw it away, and like this was the end for it. And it was just like squeaking and whining, and I was just like, oh, I'm so sad.
Put your bike down.
Really sad to.
This is a good comic story.
Yeah, put my bike down.
No, it's
yeah. I kept his key for a long time too, because they have like a.
Put it in the locket.
Yeah. They have a cool locking system where your lock is attached to your bike, so you pull the key out and you put the key back in, and I just kept that key on my keychain. I would look at it and go, Borosuke, I miss you. I miss you. He was a good bike.
Well, he was a terrible bike.
It's like when you get a pet that like at first is so annoying, but you kind of grow to love it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Have you messed with Spot Tune at all, Steven?
No, I've seen it, but do they have like an upload feature now or something?
They do. I mean, I've just been like checking it out and reading some of their comics and stuff, but they have kind of a weird, like, they have a model that I'm sure works great in Korea, but I'm curious as to how well it's doing here, because it's like the first 16 or so episodes will be free, and then they put the rest of it like behind a paywall, and then you can pay for each episode, or you can pay for them in a lump sum. But then they also have these like rotations where like a chunk of the like it'll go through, so like 17 through 25 will be free for this time period, and then it moves to 26 through 30 or whatever, but you have to follow the progression to be able to read it for free. And I don't know. I paid for one of them just because I wanted to read it, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's getting the kind of numbers that Webtoons is, because I can't imagine that the demographic that they're hitting is accustomed to spending a lot of money on comics like that.
Yeah, I think what's Webtoon's big competitor right now?
Tapasic or Tapas or whatever it's called now.
Tapasic had that type of content for some of their stuff. Tapas, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I paid for it, but again, I'm probably not the target demographic.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Now they're starting to like recruit artists the way Webtoons and like Tapas and stuff does. Because before, I think they were only just bringing stuff over.
Really?
Yeah.
Now I'm really curious. Dude, it's such a weird thing to be a Webtoons artist at this stage, where like so weird. So I'm really curious, like what it's like for them, you know, just because it's been a surreal experience for us, you know.
Right. Steven, Kawaii Planet is excited and says they drew fan art for you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Someone's saying, hopefully I'll be able to support the Kickstarter for Space Boy. I plan to be, Space Boy's going to be published by Dark Horse, so I don't need to run a Kickstarter for it. Which I'm pretty happy about.
I never want to do another Kickstarter. That was my thought exactly. So talking about your bike, someone said top 10 anime deaths.
Yeah.
So how much digital do you do these days, Kazu? Because I know you do most of your penciling, and then Jason handles the majority of the color. So how much? How much?
I still do a lot. I mean, in the last, at the last week when I wasn't on here with you guys, Amulet, I ended up having to paint, I don't know, some 30 pages or so or more in like 3 days. But I was also, I had just drawn, I drew the last like 20 something, in the last week I had to also draw the pencil and ink the last 18 pages of the book in about 2 days as well.
Jeez.
So like, you know, Jason actually didn't have a lot of stuff like on hand to color, but we did have a lot to do. I try not to color, you know, I try not to color the book. If I can, that would be great. But I'm always running right up on the end of deadlines and stuff like that. So I do end up having to jump onto colors. And I think it was good. It was good that I did this time. One of the scenes is very emotional, and I'm kind of glad that Jason left that for me to do. It made the book stronger for it. But yeah, I mean, the coloring is actually my favorite part, though. I mean, it's enjoyable. Like, you know, aside from the tension headaches you get from being on the Cintiq, you know, I think painting for me is just a joy. Like, doing this right now is so relaxing, just painting.
It's therapeutic, yeah.
Yeah, and just creating worlds and stuff like that. You know, this is essentially what I would have done if I stayed in animation. Probably I'd just be developing concepts for environments and stuff. But yeah, I'd say I probably end up coloring about a quarter of the book. And Jason colors about a little more than half, and then the rest is covered by people who are coming in, just working freelance with us. Yeah, and then Jason and I go over and paint over almost all the pages, just so it's consistent.
Right. But your penciling and inking it's all pencil, right? You still stay with all pencil, right?
Yeah. I used to crow quill. Yeah. In high school, I was offered work as a background inker to work with the guys at Extreme. I think they wanted me to at least try anyway. I think they were just being really nice, like big brother types. It's like, yeah, man, hey, you got some good stuff going. So they said, you could do some background inking. I looked at what we were going to be doing background inking for, and I thought, no, can't do this. They were all really nice, though, at Extreme. Really good guys. I would have loved to do the job. I just thought, like, I'd rather do something more literary.
Right.
Sometimes, so.
Do you know what you're going to do after Amulet yet? Have you
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been working on this since college. This
Nice.
next project. I'm just picking at it. I'm thinking about it. In a lot of ways, I'm just looking at Amulet as my first big run at it, you know, to do a major series. I've never ended a series this big, so this is my first time at doing that. And I feel like I'm learning a lot. Learning a lot about, you know, like having to have the responsibility of like basically having to make a hit, you know, because this book requires so many resources that if it's not a hit, it's a failure. You know,
Right.
You know, like it's pretty fun to have that responsibility, and I feel like I've been preparing for that. So, yeah.
You getting emotional moving into the last book?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, the emotions coming. Making the book is so exhausting, emotionally. That part of it, yeah, that part is like I'm almost I'm a little bit concerned about working on the next book because I feel like it'll just be so hard to do. It's
the pressure,
so draining, and well, there's the pressure, but it's not the pressure so much as I mean the pressure I put on it myself. So doing a really good job that worries me, like making sure that I do a good job, that I'm a good guy doing it, you know. Yeah, just because there's so many people reading this, and they're all going to go on to do big things in this world, and I feel like I need to, you know, just do my job right, whatever that is, whatever that means. And
right.
It's really it's tough. It's tougher than I thought it would be, and I thought it was going to be tough. I mean, you know, because I studied all the masters and talked to people who have been successful and gotten their advice, and you know, all those folks have been really supportive, and even being able to step in the shoes of J.K. Rowling for a little bit, just doing the covers for Harry Potter and sort of being a caretaker for a franchise that has become popular mythology. That was an interesting thing to be able to see that. But yeah, even with all that prep, like it's been a lot. I mean, it's a lot to handle. Yeah, it's good though. I'm not complaining, so just.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how you feel when it's actually over.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I got super emotional when I ended Jackie Rose, because I was just like a project that I'd in some way or other been working on for most of my comics career. And so to like in some way say goodbye to characters, it was just
yeah, maybe I will feel that way. I don't think I will.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if I do my job correctly, the characters never go away.
It's true.
Right? So that people just think, I mean, because like everyone's coming up to me going, "Oh man, I just read Amulet. It's really cool. Like I love what you did in this book." And they're reading something that I, you know, started producing for Scholastic. I mean, I signed my contract with them in 2005. So they're talking about something I did in 2006 and 7. You know, give it, and it's new. It's so brand new to so many readers.
Right.
So when you're working in books, it's just if you do it well, then it's just there for a very long time.
I think I also just in general struggle with ending or like letting things go, or ending things where like I do the same thing with a lot of video games, and I have trouble with open world video games where like I don't want it to end, so I never finish it. So, I think I just struggle with that in general.
You're real softy. That's what.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's good though. Yeah, I mean, that's how I was when I was playing Final Fantasy as a kid, and I did, you know, when Palom and Porum turned to stone, and I was like, "Oh no, we developed all that magic together." No, but Yeah, at this point, I feel like the characters are the readers, not so much mine.
Mm.
And man, I really want to get on to my next projects. I mean, it's been a while.
That's true.
Like,
What is Jeff Smith up to these days? Is he still working on that Tiki comic?
yeah, he is. It's still posting online. Yeah.
I haven't read that in forever. I remember like when he first did it, he was really bad at websites. It was like
Jeff's kind of, and he's a parent's age, like
Yeah.
he's older, so yeah, it's like the web stuff. He's new to it, but I think he got the hang of it.
I think he got some people to help him or something. But yeah, I keep forgetting about that. Has he printed any of that yet?
No, but I believe Scholastic is going to print it.
I bought like the first.
I did talk to him recently. I'm gonna be in Columbus for the cartoon Crossroads or comic, whatever the event that they put together there.
Yeah.
I'll be a guest of honor this year.
Nice.
I love going to Ohio, Columbus area especially. It's kind of the mecca of comics, I think, in American comics.
Yeah, I wish I used to live there when I was a kid, but I didn't know about any of that, or I didn't grow up like really into comics that much. It wasn't until like really I was like started college that I very suddenly fell in love with the art form and started doing it.
Well, it's a good time to go. You can go back there and visit the Billy Ireland Cartoon Research Library. You can see a lot of original art by the greats.
I would love to go back.
And I mean, it's where Watterson's hiding out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to be able to see.
I actually visited his town to see what it was like.
You visited what?
I visited Chagrin Falls just to see what the place was like.
Kind
of just.
How do you know? How do you know he's there?
What's that?
It's come out.
How do you know Watterson lives there?
That's where he's from, and he was apparently, retiring, right, and hanging out with his dad and fishing all the time, apparently. But they basically ran me out of town.
Really?
I went to the town, like the city hall, and asked around, and they got really mad at me.
I'll bet.
We're very protective of the Watterson family. They just wanted me to get out of town, so I got myself a lunch, a lot of stink eyes.
How long ago was that?
It was last week.
7 years ago or something. I don't know, something like that. It was a while ago. I did like a cartoon pilgrimage, and I even drove to Cleveland to see the house where Siegel and Schuster drew Superman. Visited the place. I thought it was a museum, but it was a guy's house. But he let me in and showed me his shrine that he made in the attic.
Ooh,
where they made the comic, and just a bunch of like Superman memorabilia that he collected himself.
Didn't the Schultz house burn down recently?
It did, yeah. I checked in with Jeannie and everybody. Said everyone's okay.
Everyone's safe, yeah, thank God.
Yeah. Jeannie's in good spirits. Everyone's happy. They were really amazed. They said that they were just really amazed with the firefighters. How they were.
Yeah, I went to a friend's house who lives in the outskirts of Santa Fe, because I'm in New Mexico, and we were talking and realized that Bill had lived like he had lived in like a neighboring house like I don't know 15 or 20 years earlier. And the neighbor was kind of reminiscing about him. He's like, yeah, he would go on bike rides. Very lonely. And but I think he spent time here in New Mexico because a lot of the few paintings that has kind of come out has been very New Mexican, and there's a huge painting scene here. But I get why he avoids the spotlight. It would be exhausting.
Yeah, no, I don't blame him.
Manage all that.
He can do what he wants. It's fine. I just want to see where he's from.
And suck him a little bit.
But I mean, I did want to just see like where did American comics come from? You know, I did the same thing in Japan. I visited Takarazuka and went to the Tezuka Museum, and you know, I didn't even know that my grandma is actually from that town.
Huh.
That was actually where she's from. They're famous for the all women's theater, where women just dress up as every character.
That's pretty cool.
And yeah, every time I travel, I try to find out what the local landmarks are and see if I can get there. I was just next to Chicago and I didn't have much time, but when I felt like I'd never seen Chicago, so I drove out to Chicago in the middle of the night, cops everywhere. And I was in the tunnels and stuff, and it was like being in the Batman movies, the new ones, the Chris Nolan ones.
Right. Not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, no, I mean it was interesting though. Whatever, you know, it's the adventure. I want to see this stuff. Like, where does our popular culture come from? You know, things like that.
I've never been to Chicago. I'd like to.
I like it. I like folks in the Chicago area. It's very I like the Midwest in general. Just in Fargo.
I've been to the Chicago airport. That's as good as I did.
Yeah, everyone ends up there at some point.
It's a terrible. Well, it used to be a really terrible airport.
It's not so bad now.
Not as bad now. Yeah, it used to I was in one of the biggest terminals I've ever seen, and there was one power outlet in the entire thing.
There's even a hotel in there.
Oh, nice.
I think a lot of people get stuck in there.
Well, it's a big hub for several airlines, but I think it's Delta. I think that's one of their huge hubs. Flew there, I think, out of New Mexico one time, actually, for visiting Steven. Because it was cheaper.
I haven't saved this file yet. This is I should do that.
Living dangerously.
It's kind of interesting that the talkative people have all signed off the stream. So it's kind of, but someone in the chat has read that they're drawing alongside us, and it's super relaxing. So that's good. That's good.
Nice.
Without Michael though, Michael and Daniel,
Doug,
they're
and Doug,
they're the talking powerhouses.
Oh yeah. Is Jason still here?
No, Jason. He left.
He's here. He kept the chat open, but he gave himself a limit this week. He think he's got some other stuff to do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is weird. This is one of those few times where I'm not in some kind of production crisis mode. Trying to finish something. I mean, I have work to do, but I'm just prepping for the next book.
Thanks. I'm drawing backgrounds right now. Nothing but backgrounds. My characters are climbing around in the depths of a giant spaceship.
Nice.
I'm so behind in your book, Steven. It's ridiculous.
Boy, you are so behind on my book, Josh.
Yep.
Josh, why won't you read Space Boy? We're friends. We're friends, Josh.
I have this problem with like every book though.
I never read comics.
Trying to read more. Like I need to read more. Because when I do, it tends to get me like it's like a refreshing motivation and excitement when I find something I like. But I find they just don't do it enough.
Should I go get something?
Oh, do you want me to get the kids? I can pick
That
them
would
up.
be helpful.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, I'm not doing anything, that I need to do. I'm just paying. Yeah. I have to go pick up the kids, guys.
All right, man.
All right, good talking to you, man.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's fun to just paint something. It's not gonna have to be anything.
It's cool watching you paint. That's a pretty sweet house on a hill.
Right.
Yeah, it's fun. Just this kind of thing is like my favorite thing to do. I don't get to do it very often, but
You sure you're okay?
huh?
Okay.
No, it's okay. I can go. All right, guys.
Take care, man.
Guys.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Bye. Let me see. How do I turn this off? Close.
I think I might sign off too, Josh, but it would be weird if we both sign off and we don't tell Jason. Is it just going to be
just dead air? I was thinking about that. Now it's just us. Let me see if there was any last questions or anything that mattered.
Oh, Albatross writes, Steven, me and my little sister love reading Space Wave. You've always been a sci-fi guy. Yep.
Sci-fi guy.
Love Star Trek. I was a pretty nerdy kid when I was a kid.
When you were a nerdy kid. When you were a kid. Were you a nerdy kid when you were an adult?
Oh, that's true. True.
Hey, Steven, let's go back in time and go to San Diego in 2011.
2011, we went to San Diego. Was that the first time I ever met you?
No, we met in 2010, but we didn't really hang out that much. 2011 is the one where we went together and won. But it's just like, I know, like, I want to go back, and it would still probably, if I was able to go when it worked out, and it would probably still be cool. But I feel like it's never going to be what it was.
No. Dude, I went back. I got to go to San Diego last year.
That's right,
and,
you jerk.
all of our... Yeah. But, like, all the old people are gone. You know, the only person that was there was Pascal Campion.
Yeah.
Who's still hanging on. But from the old crowd of, like, Flight people and all those cartoonists.
Right.
Nobody's there. So it's a different convention now.
Yeah. That's why we have to go back in time.
That'd be pretty sweet. That was the epic time. Have you been doing okay, Josh?
Yep.
You doing good? I have been. We meet weekly on these Wednesdays and have this chat.
But we don't actually talk very much to each other.
We don't talk anymore.
Yeah.
We don't talk. We don't like hang out. And
yeah, we need to fix that.
Yeah, we need to like. We should just Skype again sometime.
Yeah, I'm down.
But yeah. Well, I think I'll sign off as well. That was
yeah,
fun.
Sounds good.
Sometimes these chats end in a bang, and sometimes they just kind of wheeze off. Just kind of like.
All right. Well, Steven, chat, people, everyone, it's good hanging out with you.
Goodbye. Have fun watching Jason broadcast his mute screen. All right. Bye, everybody.
Later.